Hey guys, welcome to another episode of MTG Steam Brewery. This week is a modern video, as we're going to do a modern versus video deck tech this week. This is what I nicknamed 21 Jump Street because I'm playing 21 1-drop creatures. It's a small zoo deck. It's a really aggressive Naya deck in modern. And there's not really too much to explain to it. I did lay my deck out a little bit different. I'll explain that to you guys when it comes to it. But for now, let's go ahead and get right into the deck tech. We have 4 Gore Clan Rampagers, been picked up in the Zoo decks in Legacy and in Modern. Even since playing Standard decks being just either a 4/4 trample, or 4 is very efficient for its mana cost, it's very powerful. But it's mainly used for the 1 red, 1 green Blood Rush ability. An uncounterable +4/+4 and trample is very good. It kills Tarmogoyf, goes over blockers, gets in lots of damage. And with only 17 lands in this deck, we're probably not hardcasting this unless we're flooding out. So it's normally just 2 mana, uncounterable +4 and +4 and trample. So it's a pump spell. It's really efficient for its mana. We also have 2 Locks on Smiter kind of as our top end. It's also really good against the Gen decks with main deck Lilianas, because when they go +1 and make us discard our Smiter, we're going to put it directly into play instead of having to discard it. Against control decks, it's uncounterable, and it also does not die to Lightning Bolt or Lightning Helix. So even though we only have 17 lands, it's not uncommon for us to cast this, especially since there's only 2 of it. It also evolves our Experiment one up to 4 Force, which can sometimes be relevant, but it's just a very efficient creature. But since it is 3 mana and as our actual top end in the deck, we can only run 2 efficiently, so that's why that's in there. And then our 2-drops are 2 Voice of Resurgence and 2 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. They're both kind of anti-control cards. While Voice of Resurgence is a little bit more flexible against other decks, Thalia has a much more potent hit against control decks, as well as being a 2/1 first strike, so she works very well with Gore Clan Rampager and Blood Rushing, Boros Charm. And the Boros Charm Gore Clan Rampager interaction can sometimes come up, as we're about to get to that. But Thalia is just a very efficient creature at 2 mana, slows down Anger of the Gods by a full turn, which is huge, especially when we just keep progressing our board while we're making their Anger of the Gods slower. So very, very good. Our only non-creature spells in the deck are 4 Boros Charm, 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Path to Exile. Path to Exile is just straight up removal. We need to get through things like Tarmogoyf. We need to kill Splinter Twin creatures that mainly just deceive Rexarch. We need a way to get through those, because Lightning Bolt and Boros Charm can't do that. So Path to Exile is going to be our way to do that, as well as it's also just 1 mana, so it's really cheap and efficient removal. It allows us to get through blockers very efficiently and get in lots of damage. And then Lightning Bolt and Boros Charm are kind of the reach of the deck. Boros Storm is normally going to deal 4 damage, Lightning Bolt is normally going to deal 3 damage to a player. Sometimes extra removal if we're on the play or even on the draw, our opponent plays a Mana Dork on turn 1. We really want to kill that. And Boros Charm beats Anger of the Gods by making our permanents indestructible. So definitely worth having 4 of in the deck, because Anger of the Gods is a worse nightmare for our deck when we are on the draw. And on the play, it's not too bad, especially if we have a Boros Charm, because if we go 1-drop, untap, 1-drop, 1-drop, we can then untap, play either just a 1-drop and leave a Boros Charm, or just not even cast anything and leave a Boros Charm. And they're still in a position where they have to try to kill all of our creatures, or as many as possible, and Boros Charm makes that plan really bad. So just such an amazing card to have in this deck. And then in our second section, we have the core of our deck are 21 1-drop creatures, so that's why I put them by themselves. I'm going to start off with 4 Goblin Guide. If you play this guy in turn 1, he's normally 4 to 8 damage, being a 1 red 2/2 haster. Our opponent's getting lands very minimal advantage for them, so it's a very minor drawback for being able to get in 2 to 8 damage from turn 1 when this guy comes into play. So he's just so powerful that we had to have him in here. But so 4 Wildland Cattle. These are one of the 8 cards we've proxied in the deck. They are in the mail, they just haven't arrived yet, and they will not arrive in time for when we do the video. So we're going to go ahead and do them, do the videos with these, so that's why we have to proxy them. But it is 1 green for a 1/1. It gets +1/+1 if you control a mountain, and +1/+1 if you control plains. So it's effectively a 1 mana 3/3. It's normally a 3/3 by turn 2, with fetch lands and shock lands in modern. So it's super cheap and super aggressive. It is pretty much a Lightning Bolt on legs, I guess is the best way to say it. So being as cheap as it is, it gets in, if we play this on turn 1, it can get in 3 to 9 damage very quickly. As well as many of our creatures are, their power toughness ×2 normally is how much damage they deal. So that's why we would have those in here. And our next one drop is Loam Lion. It is a 1 white 1/1 +1/+2 if you control the forest. So it's a 1 mana 2/3. It's very important that it's 3 toughness, because with Experiment 1 in the deck, we can play turn 1 Experiment 1, turn 2 Goblin Guide Loam Lion, or even just like Loam Lion, or something along those lines. It will evolve Experiment 1 to a 3/3 because it has the 3 toughness, which is very nice. And it also doesn't die to a single Electrolyze, which can be relevant sometimes. Our threats only dying to things like Lightning Bolt and Path to Exile and Lightning Helix, only dying to spells like that. With all of our creatures only dying to spells like that, it does make our creatures a lot more resilient, which is, for me, a big push to play this deck. Even though I did think it was really bad at first, I proxied it up and started testing it, and I really like the deck. So, a lot more than I thought I would. So I've adopted it, because our 1-drops are actually more resilient than I thought they would be. And Kurdape is basically a red Loam Lion. It is the exact same. If you have force, it gets +1/+2. So it's just another Loam Lion. It's the only reason we're playing it. Having more 1 mana 2/3s is very good. And we have Experiment 1, which is normally a 1 mana 3/3 in this deck. It gets evolved by pretty much every other creature but Grim Lavamancer. And it becomes a 3/3 quite often on turn 2. So it's basically just another Wild in the Cattle, except it doesn't care what kind of land type we have, so it's very nice. But we will normally have all the land types, otherwise it normally doesn't get to a 3/3. But it's certainly very good. And it can regenerate through an Anger of Gods if we don't have a Boros Charm, so it does stick around. It generates from removal, and just re-evolves very quickly, which is very nice, and it's very efficient. And then our final 1-drop is a Singleton Grim Lavamancer. It's 1 red, 1, tap 1 in it, exile 2 cards from your graveyard, and deal 2 damage to target creature or player. It just gives this deck a lot of reach, and he will normally need to be answered instead of something like Kurdape, Wild in the Cattle, or Experiment 1, simply because he can get in a lot more damage without actually having to attack, and can respond to removal spells, which is very nice, as well as his ability is only 1 red and tapping him, so it's very cheap to activate him. You normally don't like him on turn 1, he's normally a turn 2 or 3 play, as you'd rather be playing more aggressive creatures early. But as your creatures die, you have so many cheap spells, and you play 4 fetch lands in my version of the deck, as well as Gorkland on Pages, you can get cards into your graveyard very quickly, as well as our creatures will normally just die in combat or to removal spells. So he's a very nice form of reach, just acting as another burn spell, while also adding to our creature drop, our creature count, so we have more things to apply to the board. So he's just a very nice creature. And then the last cards in our main deck are 17 lands, 4 Arid Mesa, 4 Storm Ground, 2 Sacred Foundry, as they're the worst land in the deck other than basic plains. But you do have to run them so you can fetch them up if you absolutely need to. And then 4 Temple Garden, and 1 of each basic, simply because Path to Exile and Ghost Quarter, we can't really afford to let them just be broken against us. Otherwise, our opponents will do it whenever they can, and we'll get disrupted so easily by them taking out our Stomping Ground or Temple Garden. We'll get our forest taken away, and that can be very detrimental to our deck with 4 Loam Lion and 4 Kurdape. And I'll see you guys here in a second for the sideboard to go over our sideboard plans. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back for the sideboard. We're going to get right into it. We have 2 more Lockstone Smiter for the Jund and Control matchups. Not dying to Lightning Bolt. Not a single Lightning Bolt. Not dying to more than 2 Electrolyzes. Pretty much only being answered by a Path as a 1-for-1. Makes this card very efficient. Against Jund, where they have, once again, their Lilianas, this is just a really good card to have against them. As well as it's a 4/4, and that deck also plays Lightning Bolt. Though every other removal spell in their deck will hit it. This will normally survive, assuming that they haven't used their Lightning Bolt already. Lightning Bolt's the only removal spell in their hand. As well as against their Lilianas, it's just going to be really good, and it's really hard for them to play around that by not uptaking their Liliana after they've minus, assuming that we didn't kill her. So it's going to be very good there. It's also just a nice beefy creature if we really just want to bring in something for other aggressive decks. A 3-mana 4/4 is a pretty good way to do that on the play. But it's mainly just for the Jund and Control matchups, because it is uncounterable and is a 4/4. We also have 1 Brahmans kind of for the same, against the same matchups. Not dying to Lightning Bolt's huge. Against other aggressive decks he also comes in, other than things like Affinity. He's just too slow there, but whenever he attacks or blocks, you get a 1/1, so he just generates value by attacking or blocking. And being so cheap, he's also just really aggressively caustic, which makes him very good. He's just a cheap aggressive threat to have against the Controlier and the Grindier decks in Modern. So we definitely wanted to have one of him, but he's 3 mana, so we can't really play too many of them. So we settled on 1, and I've been very happy with it. We also have one Aven Mind Sensor, kind of strictly for the Birthing Pod and Scape Shift matchups. Against Scape Shift, it's just a creature that they have to have an answer to before they can try to combo, so it might be able to buy us a little bit of time. That's one of our worst matchups, is it's just a combo deck that we can't interact with. But against things like Pod, where they have fetch lands, they have Birthing Pod, they have Court of Calling, we just need a way to mess up their game plan, because that's a really bad matchup for this deck. At least I think it is. I haven't had the chance to test it yet. But being able to mess with their main cards of the deck is going to be very, very good for us, and give us a good chance at beating them if we draw it. And so one Kataki, strictly for the Affinity matchup, coming down on turn 2, making them have to pay for all their artifacts, and we have things like I have a Path to Exile, Lightning Bolt as a removal spell for whatever they have left over. It puts us really far ahead, as well as we pretty much just don't have to pay the mana, because we don't have any artifacts in our deck if we're bringing in Kataki, unless we choose to bring in something like Phyrexian Evoker or Torpor Orb, but that normally doesn't happen against Affinity. We also have one Phyrexian Evoker. It's kind of a Epiphany on a stick, but it can't name lands, which can be relevant. There's Kaisa Wolf Run, Inkmoth Nexus, Blinkmoth Nexus, things like that. But it's also a 2/1, so it gets to attack. If they brought an Artifact Hate to answer Epiphany Needle, it means they also have Artifact Hate to answer Evoker. So I just wanted a body that could attack, though we don't want to have too many, because it doesn't come in against a ton of decks. But it's nice against Scavenging Ooze. It's nice against Splinter Twin. If we know, like, if we just have an answer to Pestermite with Lightning Bolt, we just drop it and name Deceiver Exarch. It can name a Johnny, like just random Planeswalkers that can give us trouble. So it's just a nice kind of utility card to have in the sideboard. So he's here. We have one Rest in Peace. The Eternal Commands deck, the Jund deck with Scavenging Ooze, Tarmogoyf. Mainly Scavenging Ooze, Tarmogoyf, really messing with those, making them not good against us, because those cards are really good against us. Makes this card really good in that matchup. And if we play it later in the game, instead of just playing it on turn 2, and they have the Abrupt Decay for it, we've still gotten our value out of it, because it's made Ooze and Tarmogoyf a lot worse, and they had to use a removal spell in it, not a creature. Makes it a nice suppression field. Kind of just a nice card. It can stop Twin from comboing if we choose to bring it in. It's really good against the Affinity deck. Them having to tap so much mana, activating Blinkmoth Nexus, Inkmoth Nexus, Springleaf Drum, Mox Opal, pretty much anything. Oh wait, no, it doesn't stop Springleaf Drum, but like making Blinkmoth Nexus, Inkmoth Nexus harder to activate, Cranial Plating is harder to equip, Arcburn Ravager is harder to activate, Steel Overseer is harder to activate. Just really good in that matchup. It's really good against Jund with Scavenging Ooze, Liliana, and Manlands. Just kind of Chandra Power Master, which is really good against us. It makes bouncing a Battle Skull really hard if we bring in the Ancient Grudge against Jund. Just kind of a nice utility card to have in our sideboard. We also have one Combust, Splinter Twin, and Blue Red Control. We need to kill Colonnades, Restoration Angels, Deceiver Exarchs, Pestermites, things like that, without them being able to stop us. And this is just a really good way to do that. So we just wanted another card for that matchup. That's our worst matchup. We have 2 Ancient Grudge, another card for the Affinity matchup. Any other random artifacts that can give us problems. Just kind of a nice card to have. One Wave Revelation. This is kind of strictly for the Bogles matchup, though there might be some other random enchantments you have to worry about. Bogles is a really bad matchup for this deck, but we didn't want to have too many cards for it in our sideboard. It's not really that big of a deck. So having a card that could kill 2 enchantments for 1 was really nice to have, because it would allow us to not overcommit to our sideboard. So that's why that's there. We have 2 Lightning Helix. As you can see, I have 2 Proxies in my sideboard, because the deck that goes like a number 2 will be playing plays 4, whereas I'm sideboarding mine and will not be bringing them in against his deck. So since we only have 4, we didn't really want to mess with me having my whole deck double-sleeved and him having his deck double-sleeved. We didn't really want to mess with having to change those. So that's why it's like that. But those are for decks like Affinity, just other random aggressive decks. This is just for those matchups solely, because it's going to be a removal spell and gain 3 life, which is going to be very good. We also have one Torpor Orb, really good against the Twin decks. And if you ever go up against a deck like Eternal Command, this card comes in. It's really good against Melee or Pod, making all of their Enter the Battlefield creatures worse, making Kitchen Finks just a 3/2 for 3. It's going to be very nice. Though the card is still good against us because it gets to block twice if they don't answer our Torpor Orb. But Torpor Orb makes that matchup a lot better for us. As well as it can just shut down the Eternal Command deck until they find an answer to it, and by then you might have just overwhelmed the board. So just kind of another nice utility card to have in our sideboard. That's why that's in here. I'm going to go over this deck with an article. As you saw, there's no Tarmogoyfs, and we're missing some other cards that are kind of familiar with the Zoo deck. I'll go over that in my article if you want to read that. But please don't be afraid to tweet at me at PureSourceBlog, email us, puresourceblog@yahoo.com, or just comment on the video, questions you have about this deck, about why I don't have certain cards, or things like that. And that's everything for this deck tech, guys, so I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye!